There's a wonderful Jew, a wonderful Chassid Chabad, and his name is Professor Branover. May he have a speedy recovery. I understand that he's, I don't know, unconscious or for the last long time already. Anyway, so he was a professor in Russia in magneto hydrodynamics or something like that. Some sort of a thing which deals with energy and as its name goes. And he had a whole he was a head of a whole sort of a research center in Beersheba, not Beersheba. Anyway, but he was not a religious Jew in Russia, and he became attached to the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's a long story. How? I mean, a little bit of the story I'll tell. He became connected a little bit to the Chabad Hasidim. I heard this story from him. And he saw one of them was reading the book, the Tanya. And he said, what's that book? He said, it's the book, the Tanya. Said, is it a good book? He said, oh yeah, I've been learning it for the last, like 40 years. So he said, what? He said he would finish like 5 books a week. And he was a professor. He was a talented person, 5 books a week. And he said, this person, 1 book, 40 years. This person must be really slow. This guy must be really thick. 40 years to write a book. Even 4 days is a long time, but 40 years. And he said, and still he started reading the Tanya. And as soon as he went to classes, he started reading. He said when he started, he had I think he said 500 questions. And so they said, write all the questions down, and we'll learn a little bit of this book, the Tanya. And then, as the time goes on, you'll ask the questions. So he wrote all the 500. This I heard it from him. He wrote down all the questions, and then they started learning Tanya. So after the first week, questions about God, about Judaism, about the commandments. So after the first week they learned, or the first month, so his teacher said, okay, let's go over some of the questions. He said, I have a lot less questions. I said, I have a lot less questions. Now let's learn a little more. So they learned more, and as they learned more, his questions sort of fell away. And when he gave the lecture, he said, the fact is I still have some questions. He said, I still have some questions. That's one story about Professor Branover. Another story that he tells is that he went into the Rebbe. Now, the Rebbe is a very holy person, a very religious guy. He was a religious, rabbi. A guy, not a nice, I take it back, a religious, tremendously religious Jew. And so he went into the Lubavitcher Rebbe all filled with awe and admiration. And the Rebbe said, what are you working on? So the Rebbe said, I would like to see some of it. So he thought, this Rebbe, how is the Rebbe possibly going to understand, what he's talking about? So, he remembered the Rebbe actually did learn in university. He did learn in university, but the science that the Rebbe learned in university was totally different from the science, from even the physics. They learned Newtonian basic things, but what the things that they're dealing with now. But the Rebbe insisted he wanted to see. So he said, okay, so the next time he came, I think he even came the next time he came to the Rebbe, he came several times, and he didn't bring it. The Rebbe said, where are they? So he mailed them into the Rebbe. He had them sent into the Rebbe, big portfolios full of information. So the next time he went into the Rebbe had an audience with him a few times. He said, thank you for sending me the things. And the Rebbe said, listen, I'm not a scientist, but I think that on page this and this, there's a mistake in the formula. So he said, which page? So the Rebbe showed him where. He says, a mistake. And so they finished the audience, and he went back to his staff, and he said, listen, I was just by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe said there's a mistake over here. Can you check to see if this is right? This man is a rabbi, he doesn't know anything about this. A little bit he knows, but so they checked out and they found out, so they checked out and they had to make a big check-in. And for a long time, it says it took them a long time, and they discovered that there was really a mistake. I'm not sure, but I think that the Rebbe even said, instead of this, it should say this, something like that. Or at least he gave him the directions of where and so how the Rebbe could possibly, I heard this story from him himself. How he could possibly know, I don't know. Anyway, that's not the story I wanted to tell. The story I wanted to tell is that one time, this was like in 1990, I guess. So he went into the Rebbe. Like I said, the Rebbe used to talk to him regularly. And the Rebbe said that you should tell people in Russia that soon they're going to get out, that the doors are going to be open and everyone's going to be able to get out. Whoever wants to go out is get out. And I also advise you, this was even like a year before it happened, I think, a year before. And he said that, we'll have to check this out. Anyway, so the Rebbe said, and also you should prepare housing in Jerusalem, because there's going to be a lot of people coming out and they won't have housing. So to get housing in Jerusalem is very difficult. I mean, it's very expensive in Jerusalem. And also this was, a year before, a month before, whatever it is, I have to look it up, whatever. And just in the beginning of Gorbachev's rulership. And so he said that you have to do this. So he did it. He got a few places. I don't know how many places he got in Jerusalem. 20 buildings, 20 buildings or 20 houses or whatever. And he said that he called up. So he did what the Rebbe said, and he called up people in Russia that he knew. And in those days, it was a little bit easier to make a phone call, to Russia. And the Rebbe, and he told people over there that the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that soon the gates are going to be open to Russia, you can get out. So the people said back to him, listen, everyone respects the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And if the Lubavitcher Rebbe said something, it must be true. But it is totally against what our eyes see. The person that he's talking to, he said, just yesterday, they arrested my wife and they took her into interrogation and she hasn't come back yet. And things are getting, instead of easier, they're getting more and more severe. They're getting more severe. So they don't, if the Rebbe says it, it's okay. Anyway, it ended up that Gorbachev all of a sudden had this change of mind from nowhere. And he made this, what was called glasnost or perestroika, whatever it is. And he said, that's it. There's no more communism. We're going to have a capitalistic society. And the doors are open. Anyone who wants to go out can go out. Anyone who wants to come in can come into Russia. No problem. So after this happened, so Gorbachev made a visit to Israel. And they, at that time, Rabbi Branover, he was very popular. He was well known. He had this whole center in research center in Beersheba. He was really well known. So, and he spoke Russian. So they had him escort Gorbachev around. He was also a very friendly person, very knowledgeable person. So he had him escort Gorbachev around. So he escorted Gorbachev around, and he told Gorbachev what the Rebbe said. And Gorbachev said, when did the Rebbe say that? So he told him the date. It was like a year before it happened or whatever, at the beginning of when Gorbachev took over. So Gorbachev said, listen, it could be that the Rebbe has spies in the Kremlin. It could be that he does. It could be. It's very doubtful, but anything is possible. But he said, but that, even if he had all the spies in the world, he could not have known because I myself didn't know. When the Rebbe said that, I had a totally different idea of what I was going to do with my rulership. I was going to clamp down. I was a big fan of communism, and I was going to make it strong. I was going to make it work. And suddenly I got an idea that it wasn't going to work. It wasn't working out. And therefore I opened up the doors. Said how the Lubavitcher Rebbe could have known something like that, it was just pure prophecy. There's absolutely no logical way to explain it because he knew something that I myself didn't know. He knew something I was going to do that I myself didn't know I was going to do it. So here we see that the power of prophecy has not departed from the Jewish people. And the Rebbe said the main prophecy is Mashiach is here and the redemption is near. There's no reason to fear. I'm making this up, the rhymes. Just Torah and commandments and happiness we should adhere. Have a good day with Mashiach, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 8:15.
And never despair.
Oh, never despair. Very good. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, I
We're
thought
going
of that.
to talk about it tomorrow. Feel good.